So I decided to do a video about optionals. If you've been doing any type of Swift programming for a while, it's probably pretty common to see a little question mark at the end of a variable name or object name. And one of the things that was recently added to the latest version of JavaScript was this idea of optionals. So if you're not familiar with optionals, optionals are essentially their way of being able to do a check against a variable just to make sure that it's not undefined or null or something like that. The reason for that is that a lot of the errors that, especially like with strictly typed languages like Java and C# as an example, 50% of the errors for the most part are generally caused when somebody tries to reference a variable that's not set. And it's compound objects. And one of the things that's nice about JavaScript is that you can actually, you can do, I want to get the variable that's a property of this object, that's a property of this object, it's a property of this object. You can go as many levels deep as you want. But the problem is that any one of those variables is not set, if it's undefined or null, then it's going to throw an error. And so one of the things the optional does is it makes it a lot easier to do a check against that, where you don't have to do a lot of if statements to see whether or not something's undefined or null. You can actually, in a single line, you can actually check to see whether or not a value is a valid value, or you're making sure that you're getting a valid value from a variable or structure. So let's take a quick look and see what that looks like. So if we look right here, we can see that I have this object here that I've created, and you can see that it actually has another property that has a series of properties that are set to it as an object. So if I want to reference, let's say, the street number right here and print that out here in the console log, one of the things I can do is I can just come over here using dot notation and say dot address and dot street number. Oops, number. And here you can see down here in the console that we're actually able to print that number out. We're setting this right here to this property. But let's say the next object that we try to pass in here to set this variable is missing this address structure. Well, one of the problems is that you'll actually crash the application right here on line 7. So one of the things that's been pretty nice about ES 2020 is they've added this optional character here, the question mark. So if I put that in here, now the program doesn't break, but it does set an undefined here to this address. So something else that we can also do here, this is also a new feature that's in ES 2020, is I can put in the double question mark, which is actually the nullish coalescing operator, and I can set this to, let's say, unknown value. And now it's actually printing out this since we don't have a street number here. And then if I come back here and I put that back in, we get back the original console number. So this is actually a very handy way of being able to deal with, let's say you're trying to handle different sets of objects that may or may not conform to a specific structure. So if you like this content, please either like or subscribe to the channel. And if you have a comment, please leave a comment below. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Talk to you guys later.